Okay, thank you.
Så er vi der nogenlunde.
Ja, så er vi ved at være klar igen her på scenen i Snedkeriet. Mine damer og herrer, det er nu en stor fornøjelse for første gang på Krimimessen at kunne byde velkommen til den franske krimiforfatter Michel Bussi, som debuterede på dansk sidste år med Pigen på flyet og senest med Sorte, åkander. Og det er professor Lars Ole Sauerberg, der vil tale med forfatteren. Og jeg skal sige, at efter interviewet vil Michel signere ned i Bord ID stand i magasinet. Og jeg skal gøre opmærksom på, at interviewet foregår på engelsk. Så for the English-speaking audience, it's a great pleasure for me to welcome the French crime writer Michel Bussi, who will now be interviewed by Lars Ole Sauerberg. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you very much. Yes, if I were to do this in French, you wouldn't understand very much of it, nor would the audience.
Yes.
Nor would the audience, so we'll not even make the attempt. But we'll go on in a slow kind of English. And I hope that will please you as well as the audience. So a very warm welcome to you, Michel Bussi. Apart from your writing career, you have another career. You are a geographer. You're a professor of geography at the University of Rouen in northern France. And I know from what I've read about you on Wikipedia and likewise sites of more or less fake news, that you specialize in electoral behavior.
Yes.
That is the way that voters behave.
Yes.
So that is your specialty. And I could, of course, be sorely tempted to ask you, what is the connection between that particular academic field and your choice of writing topics in your thrillers?
I think there is no links between
No link.
electoral behavior and my books. So first, I apologize for my French accent. I hope you will understand what I'm when I'm speaking in my bad English, but I will try. No, there is no links, I think, because when I became a geographer at the university, and after when my specialization was in political geography and electoral geography and so on, I was 30 years old. But to be a writer, I think when I was 6 years old or 10 years old, I know that I want to write or to invent a story. So I think I can become perhaps a journalist or baker or that sort, but I will be a writer. So it's two things very different, and I have the luck to write, and my books will be published and translate in a lot of countries. So it's a dream for me, but so never I can imagine that I will be a writer international when I became a very serious professor of geography in University of Normandy. And so I think to write it's very different when I write for an academic article or scientific papers. It's a way of to write very different than when I write a fiction novel. So it's sort of instinctive, I think, the difference between the two.
Yes. As an academic writer, as a scientist, you have to be very reliable, very trustworthy, very authoritative. But your narrators in your fiction are very unreliable. They cheat. They cheat the reader, they cheat themselves is that a way to compensate?
No, not only. Yes. I think when you are scientific for science, you need two quality. I think you need imagination and rigor to be rigorous or to be true. And when you write a book, a novel, criminal novel, it's the same thing. You must have very imagination and to be very precise. And so I think it's the same quality. After, of course, when I write about Giverny, Claude Monet, his biography, painting, all is true. Of course, I can invent, say, oh, Claude Monet paint something, and it's not true. Okay, all is real documentation and etc. But after, when you are a writer with imagination, you say, okay, we read a lot of books about Claude Monet, and after your imagination says, oh, something we don't know, so oh, perhaps I can imagine it. By example, in the house of Claude Monet, when he died, during 20 years, I think, the painting, there is a lot of tableau, painter, who stay in his house in Giverny. A museum in Paris is Marmottan, and there is a lot of with Cézanne, Renoir, Monet, Manet, a lot of very, very famous, and they are in the house. Everybody can go, open the door, take a picture, take the painter, and come back. And it was the truth, and I imagine, oh, it's surprising. Everybody can take it. Or, by example, I imagine that Claude Monet paint a black water lily, because the legend was Claude Monet never utilized the black, only colors, but not the black. And perhaps there is a mythic painter with black water lily. So that it's my imagination only.
Yeah. Your success, your international success, came with The Girl on the Plane.
Yes.
You had written a number of titles up till then. Why do you think that you broke through with that particular title?
Oh, sorry.
Why do you think that you were so successful with The Girl on the Plane?
Oh, in France, the first success was Blackwater Lily.
Oh, it was, yes.
I have some prize in France, but it's not really a bestseller. It's more a book quite different. People in the journalists and say, oh, Blackwater Lily is a book different, but not the big bestseller. Mm-hmm. And after A Girl on a Plane, so Un avion sans aile in French, have a prize with Maison de la Presse, with a prize with a little library in French. Very 600, I think, little library, and it's a prize important for bestseller in the summer. And I had this prize, and so my book were everywhere in this little library all around the territory of France. And after, curiously, when the book was in pocket, 1 year after, a little book in French, pocket, I sent a lot of book just in pocket. And I think it's because A Girl on a Plane is a criminal novel, but it's not only a criminal novel. It's a romantic novel with, I don't know, because the pitch is a plane, two baby, with the identity of the baby. It's not really a criminal novel. There is no murder. You're just identity quest. So I think it's different. And in France, they don't know if it's really a criminal novel or if it's something also general literature. And I think so. It's peut-être one of the explanations for the success.
Yes. This one that has just appeared in Danish. It's an earlier work. And it takes place, as you say, in Normandy, in Giverny, the site of Monet's famous gardens. It's a kind of book that I hate to review, not because that it is a poor book. On the contrary, it's a very, very good book, but you cannot tell the reader very much about it without sort of spoiling. You have something called a spoiler when you review books. You cannot tell the reader too much. There is a point of no return, actually. And this is the kind of book that you'll have to tell stories about or roundabout, rather than tell stories of. How do you relate to that yourself? I mean, when you talk to people about this particular book, in order not to spill the beans, as it were, in order not to divulge what is up and down in it, how do you present the book?
It's difficult.
Yes.
Because, as you say, you can only say, okay, there is a murder. It's in Giverny, in the Claude Monet's garden.
Yeah.
Okay, there is 3 women. And after you say, read it, because I can see more. And it's difficult, yes, in festival, or etc., to say more. It's more easy when I go in a school with students, and all the students have read the book.
Yes.
Yes. So I can really discuss with the students.
Yes.
But I can. I think, there is 2 types of books, I think. There is a books with a twist. You know twist? Twist at the end of the book. I think L'Affaire Noire, Blackwater Lily, is a book with a twist. Because you can only say, okay, read it, and you will have a big surprise at the end of the book. Okay, and read it. It's a twist. And we have the book with a pitch. Pitch is, okay, there is a big mystery, and I can resume in few words, like an avion s'envole on a plane. Okay, it's a crash of a plane, but there is only 1 baby who survived, and there was 2 babies in the plane, and nobody can say who is the baby who survived. It's a pitch. And so I read it, but you have the beginning. And so I think it's different. Sometimes there is books with a pitch, very important pitch, and sometimes there is book with just an important twist. And I think it's quite different, and when I write the books, it's different if you have a very big pitch at the beginning, and you know that there is a mystery, something so natural, no explanation, no logical explanation, but how? And the twist, I say, oh, read, it's like a puzzle, it's surprising, but everybody at the end will be explained with, I think, a big surprise. So it's very different for this book, I think, because when you read this book, you think, in fact, you read, and it's a sort of mystery, and in the other side, you read, and you try to explain what is the mystery.
Yeah. A metaphysical whodunit.
Sorry?
A metaphysical whodunit.
Yes, what I like really in my book is to have a big mystery, something with impossible, and the writer say there is a logical explanation. Mm-hmm. There is no supernatural, there is no lies, there is no dream. It's a reality, and there is a solution. But when we write the book, say, no, it's impossible. There is no solution. And after, yes, there is a door to explain all. So it's my pleasure when I write and I find idea to a new book.
It takes place in Monet's garden and in the museum world in Giverny, with extensions all the way to the US. You sense sort of element of criticism or should we say polite criticism of the art world. Am I mistaken in seeing that? Are you a bit critical of the art world, the museum world?
Not really. It was my book is about painting, and I want to talk about all of this world, but I think it was more to talk about all the dimension of the artistic world. And in my book, the more important is that it's a little girl, Fanette, who is a 10-year-old, and with who have a genius about painting. And what is important for me, it's anonymous girl in a little village, but she has a very talent. She's very, and so she is very far from museum and artistic world and so on. She just wants to paint, and it's what I want to write only. So there is a school, a little girl, painting only, and not a gallery and so on. It's another thing, and so what I say in this book is perhaps this: the real painting is everybody can painting. It's not only a big gallery in big city and very much money for art and so on. But perhaps the critique is here.
It's a very gripping love story you have in that book. It's sort of innocent, very innocent. Would you agree? I mean,
yes, I think it's more a love story than a criminal story. I think it's a sort of remake of Emma Bovary, perhaps. But in France, Nymphéa Noire, is the book preferred by the woman. When I ask, what is, I have 10 books or 11 books, what is your preferred book? The woman say, oh, Blackwater Lily. And when I say, why? It talks to me. And it's a sort of Emma Bovary, it's the story of a woman with her husband, and there is melancholy and poesy between. So it's Emma Bovary, but write like a criminal novel with a mystery. Perhaps. En tout cas, it's a classical story. A woman with her husband. She don't know. I love her. I love him. I don't love him. A stranger is coming. I fall in love with this stranger. I must leave. I must say. It's very classical. But I think the way that I read it is a puzzle, and so a different way to tell this story was this. The more old story of the humanity, perhaps.
Yeah. I think that your investigator, the policeman, is a very interesting character, very interesting type. When he arrives on the stage, he behaves in a very arrogant manner. He follows his intuition rather than what he should really take a look at. He's a bastard towards his colleagues. He doesn't really behave. Where did you find him? Is there an inspiration? Or?
Yes, it was an inspiration. And puis, when we have a policeman, you have a couple of policemen, so you must have a contrast between the two. And one is more meticulous and quiet, and the second is more nervous, instinctive, and so on. And in fact, my heroine, Stephanie, fall in love with the policeman. So he must be a little cowboy, a little seductor, and he must be a little different. So I think it's the reason. And I don't want to speak so much about the story, but the policeman soupçon the husband of Stephanie. So, of course, there is a game between this, and the instinct say, oh, it's the husband, the guilty. No, the husband is guilty. It's true, it's not true, we don't know, but it's his conviction. But perhaps it's only because he's in love with Stephanie.
Is it a kind of story that you can imagine a film of? Is there going to be made a film of it?
In fact, at the first time, when I imagined the story of Blackwater Lily, it was, for me, a movie. Yeah. The story is that I go to the cinema and I see the movie Sixième Sens, you know, Sixth Sense, with Bruce Willis and things like that. I see this movie and I was very surprised at the end. And I said, oh, I must find a story with the same surprise, and maybe the best surprise. And for me, it was a scenario, a synopsis of a movie, not a book, a synopsis of a movie. And I searched a good idea, and after a few months, I proved an idea, but for me, it was an idea of a scenario, not a book. I think it's impossible to write a book with this idea. And I know nobody in cinema, and I was not a writer at this time, and say, okay, at one time, say, okay, try with this idea to make a book. And I write this book, and now, curiously, when I bring the book to a realizator and so, they say, oh, it's impossible to adapt this book with picture. It's impossible. The mystery is possible with a book, but not if you show. I say, no. It's a book. It's a movie. I think it's a movie, but it's difficult. So I hope very that realizator will try to make a movie with the book. It's my conviction, really my conviction. So we try. We have different projects with an English producer, by example. So because it's a big success in England, by example. So I hope it will be better than Sixième Sens when there will be a movie. It's my conviction, and my double conviction is that the mystery is interesting for doing a movie, and Giverny and Nymphéa, Claude Monet, is of course very beautiful, and we can make a movie very poetic, very beautiful with all this. Everybody have the colors and the picture about Giverny, about the painting. So a very good cineast can have beautiful picture and a mystery. So it will be a criminal movie, quite different, I think.
So what you need is a Claude Chabrol to realize the plot.
I don't know.
No.
Claude Chabrol is more realist.
Okay.
I think you must have some cineasts who have really a different colors, poetic, romantic. I say more Jean-Pierre Jeunet, ou like Amélie Poulain, someone with making more poesy, more comment on pourrait dire? Ouais, poésie or different way. Okay. Very French
yes.
way of.
Yes. Okay. What are you working on now?
Yes, a book will be published in May in France. Who is calling Sans Famille. It's an old book that I write 10 years ago. And it's a prize. We don't find this book, okay? And I rewrite this book, and it's the next one in May. And the last book published in France is On l'a trouvé plutôt jolie. It's a book about immigration in France. So it's a criminal novel, but the thematic is immigration. And this book is translated now in Germany, in Italian, because of course it's a big thematic in this country, and it's a book who have a success because of the criminal mystery, but also of the thematic with quite for me a Paris because it's more serious or more feel good with the thematic of immigration. Because art or Nymphéa Noir, everybody can love Nymphéa's picture of Monet. But immigration is more difficult to say, we don't agree with you. Look, it's more difficult, but I'm proud to have this book and to give this book only on different European countries.
We shall look forward to have that also in Danish, hopefully. It's a privilege to have you here, Mr. Bussi. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much, Michel Bussi and Lars Ole Sauerberg. Jeg vil skynde mig at gøre opmærksom på, at Michel Bussi han signerer i Bog og Idé stand lige her om en 10 minutters tid. Og blev endelig hængende, fordi lige om lidt efter et kort sceneskift, så er der krimquiz.